up guys, welcome back to Life on Earth. Hope you guys are doing well, happy, whatever it is being released. I hope you guys are having a good day so far. Well, we release these in the morning, so I hope you guys are having a good morning, or whenever you're watching this, hope you're doing well. Hope you guys are staying safe with the whole COVID-19 epidemic that is currently, or pandemic that is currently circulating the globe. Hopefully when this video is released, we've got some good news, and it's the spread is slowing. If it isn't, then continue to stay strong, continue to wash your hands and listen to health officials, and so that we can really slow the curve here. What we're going to be doing is adding to our Common Watch Questions series. Essentially, this series is where we discuss some of the common questions that people ask us, being that we are enthusiasts of watches, and I like to think that I'm relatively well versed in watches, and I'm pretty knowledgeable. A lot of people come to us with a lot of interesting questions. So the question that we're going to be answering today is, what Omega should I buy? This is a question that I often get asked. Firstly, because it's kind of it's a second question that kind of comes after when people ask me what watch should I buy. A lot of the times I suggest Omega. But also Omega is a brand that a lot of people start out with. They stumble upon Omega because of their really rich history and extremely well-made watches. So they, a lot of the times, are trying to choose between a lot of the watches that Omega produces, and I think it's a testament to Omega because they really do make some quality watches. I'm going to kind of frame this a little bit better, and this is going to be a conversation that I had recently with a collector who was actually looking to purchase an Omega, but it was an Omega from the Trilogy Set. So I'll explain what the Trilogy Set is, and give my opinions on each of the three watches, and ultimately what my opinion is on which watch they should buy. But before we get into the Trilogy Set, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like these types of videos, as well as smash that like button for us for these three amazing Omega watches. So for those of you who don't know about the Omega Trilogy Set, at Baselworld in 2017, Baselworld is a watch trade show where a lot of watch manufacturers exhibit their watches. At this trade show in 2017, Omega released three watches. It was a trilogy set of basically the three watches that have been part of Omega's history and Omega's watch lines for quite a long time. And that is the Omega Speedmaster, Omega Seamaster, and the Omega Railmaster. All three of these watches were released in 1957. And all of the three models actually are re-editions of the original watches that were released in 1957. I thought this was a good place to start because it gives us a good idea of what Omega produces, the three lines of watches that they produce, and also just houses it a little bit nicely for this conversation. Just to give you an idea, a little bit more information about this trilogy set. The trilogy set actually can be sold as a trilogy. You can buy all three watches in this really beautiful box from Omega, or you could. I bet they're probably sold out of them, but you could buy all three watches in this really beautiful box, so that you had the trilogy set. But you could also buy one of the three watches as an individual piece. So you didn't have to buy all three, you could buy one of each. So I'll start with the Speedmaster because that's a very, very common one that people land on for their first watch. The Speedmaster obviously has a really deep history with Omega. The Speedmaster, as you probably know, was the watch chosen to go to the moon during some of the first space missions, some of NASA's first space missions. And obviously it's become very popular as a watch. This Speedmaster that was released takes its design elements as well as the proportions of the watch from the original Speedmaster in 1957, like I mentioned previously, but is actually down to the T when it comes to sizing. If you look on the inside of the watch, the original watch had the 3-2-1 movement, which is hailed as one of the best movements to come out of Omega, but also the best chronograph movements actually ever produced, period. The trilogy version of this watch does not come with the 3-2-1 movement. It actually comes with the 1-8-6-1 movement, so it's got its modern interpretation of 3-2-1. There are rumors that the 3-2-1 was going to make a comeback, and they were going to start producing watches with this movement. We'll see if that ends up happening, but I think this is going to be a very popular choice if you're looking at Omegas. Obviously, from a collector standpoint, collectors love this watch. They hail it as one of the best watches that you can have, especially for the money that you're putting into this watch. So it's an obvious choice and one that you should definitely consider. The second watch is the Omega Seamaster. To give you a little history on the Seamaster, this was Omega's way of actually competing with a lot of the dive watches during that time in 1957. So this is their way to compete with the Rolex Submariner, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. When it was released in 1957, this was obviously a competitor to those watches. Like I said about the Speedmaster, this is an identical reedition of this watch, down to the proportions of the case and the dial. So a really beautiful example of the Speedmaster. Also comes with a bidirectional bezel, so it's definitely usable. Like the Speedmaster, the original version of the Seamaster came with a different movement. It was the 501 movement. But instead of using that movement in this reedition, they used the modern interpretation of the 501, so it's the 8806 movement from Omega. So you're getting an updated movement similar to the Speedmaster, but a little bit of a different touch. This is going to be for those who are looking for something a little bit more dive watch in design, and I think this is a really beautiful example, especially because it kind of looks a little bit vintagey. Especially with the colors that they've used, and I think that goes for all the trilogy sets. So really beautiful watch from Omega, and a really cool second one. And then the last one, and this is kind of like the unsung hero of the Omega lines, and not a lot of people actually know about the Railmaster, but the Omega Railmaster was obviously released in 1957, and this is again a reedition, so it's going to be in those identical proportions. And I don't think this watch really gets enough love from collectors, the Railmaster. It is a little bit rare, so you're not going to find as many of them out there, especially the vintage versions, but the modern version is obviously, I think it's a little bit more dressy when you compare it to the other two, the Seamaster and the Speedmaster. It's a little bit more dressy for today's standards. It obviously wasn't that during its time, but it definitely has a little bit of an element. I think it's the smooth bezel that really makes it a little bit more dressier, and it's a really beautiful movement. Again, beautiful watch. Again, the movement in the watch is not the original. The movement that it has is the same as the Seamaster, which is the 8806. So again, the modern interpretation of what the Railmaster used to be running on. I think it's a really beautiful piece. You're probably wondering now, what is my suggestion? I personally, and this is just because of my tastes, I would go with the Railmaster. I think it's a beautiful. I think it's the underappreciated watch within this trilogy set. I think it also is a little bit more dressier, which is a little bit more to my aesthetics for an everyday watch. If you're looking for an everyday watch, this is one that people are probably going to have to look at twice in order to really know what it is. But it also is, I think, a little bit, it's just different. I don't think you'll see as many collectors wearing this Railmaster, and like I said, I think it's a perfect everyday watch. But if I was to suggest one of these watches to you, I would probably suggest the Omega Seamaster. For those of you who are watching this video, that's the watch that I would suggest. I think it's a beautiful watch. Firstly, because it's a dive watch that's going to be extremely robust. You're not going to really have to worry about. Not that you have to worry about it for any of the other two, but I think it is a little bit more robust, a little bit more heavy duty, and is used as it's a sports watch. I also think it's really beautifully, the dial colors are beautifully, not aged, it's kind of like a Fotina look to it, but I think it's really beautifully done, as well as the fact that it has that usable bezel. That would be my suggestion. The reason why I wouldn't go with the Speedmaster is because I feel like everyone has a Speedmaster. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think you should try and strive for something a little bit different. And also, if the Omega Speedmaster is actually released with the 321 movement sometime in the future, I think that's the watch that you should really be looking to get if you're looking to get a Speedmaster. So I would personally go with the Railmaster, but I think you should go with the Seamaster. Also, if you don't go with the Railmaster, it'll be easier for me to get my hands on a Railmaster. I hope you guys thought this was a useful video. It's a common question that I get, and I think this is going to probably help you as a viewer. Let me know in the comment section below what you would do if you had this trilogy set and you only had to pick one of them. I'd love to hear your thoughts and see what you guys think about my choices, so be sure to do that. Also, if you didn't do it in the beginning of the video, be sure to smash the like button for this trilogy set. It's a really beautiful three-piece collection. And who knows, if you are looking for a 3-piece collection, this is a perfect place to look. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.